Ladies and gentlemen, it is now 6:31 p.m. and a quorum of members is present. So the meeting of the Board of Education of the School District of New Berlin is called to order. Please call the roll.
Ms. Crosby, Mr. Helmer,
Here.
Ms. Connick, Mr. Kurth,
Here.
Ms. Schultz,
Here.
Mr. Seidel,
Here.
Ms. Wondruchek,
Renee Connick and Amy Crosby both notified me that they would not be able to attend tonight's meeting. I would now entertain a motion to recess to closed session.
Madam President, I move to recess in a closed session pursuant to Section 19.85, 1C, E, and F of the Wisconsin statutes to consider A, the approval of closed session minutes of August 8th, B, the employment service report, and C, employee compensation discussion, and that's all.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Kurth, a second by Mr. Helmer. Please call the roll.
Mr. Kurth,
Yes.
Mr. Helmer,
Yes.
Ms. Schultz,
Yes.
Mr. Seidel,
Yes.
We are moving into closed session. We'll return to open session around 7 o'clock. into open session. In recognition of the serious and important nature of our efforts here, we will join in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. For all those who are able, please rise. And now for those who wish to prepare for the meeting, we'll have a moment of silence. This is a public meeting of the Board of Education. Prior to this meeting, notice was given to the public last Friday by providing the agenda to the City Library. The agenda was also posted on the district website. A copy of the agenda was forwarded to the Journal-Sentinel, the Waukesha Freeman, and the Waukesha Now, all of which have filed requests for all public notices. First up, we have privilege of the floor. We do have one this evening. Meetings of the board are conducted for the purpose of carrying on the business of the schools and therefore are not public meetings, but meetings held in public. This portion of the meeting is an opportunity for you to come and voice your concerns to the board. So please do not be offended when we listen quietly. We may even take notes. We do not immediately respond to your questions and comments. This is a time for you to talk and us to listen. Thank you for coming to voice your comments and concerns. When I call your name, please step up to the microphone, address the chair, and state your name and whether or not you are a resident in the school district. Each presentation is to be restricted to a maximum of 3 minutes. Privilege of the floor will be limited to 1.5 hours. Presentations are not to be designed for purposes of engaging others in a debate in this forum. Discussion of certified, classified, or professional personnel, or of individual Board of Education members shall not be considered an appropriate topic for this forum, and the speaker will be ruled out of order. Our one speaker this evening is Charlotte Krupa.
Good evening, school board. My name is Charlotte Krupa, and I am a member of the New Berlin community. I reside at 4440 South Highview Court, New Berlin, Wisconsin. And I'm not sure if you all are aware that tonight, at the Wauwatosa School Board meeting, they will be voting on a radical new proposal for hyper-sexualized curriculum in the Wauwatosa School District for children as young as 5. How young is too young to learn about gender identity and expression? Although I have not seen any change in our curriculum in New Berlin, I would like to express my opinion that this topic is for parents to discuss with their children. What should be taught and always remain the focus in our teaching in New Berlin is the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s. After 2 years of COVID and COVID-related restrictions, it is important that we remain focused on providing our children with an age-appropriate curriculum that is engaging. I remember Mr. Garza talking about this subject at the last school board meeting. Mr. Garza was decisive about the controversial and inappropriate content never coming to New Berlin School District. He also talked about his commitment to transparency to parents. As a parent, these are very important to me, and I am certain they are very important to many in our school district. Thank you.
Thank you. For the president's message this evening, I just want to let everyone know we have now had all of our committee meetings, and I will be putting on future agendas committee meeting reports so you can share with the entire board what was discussed at your meetings and any goals that you have for this year. Then we have the administrative team report, the superintendent's update.
Yeah, so just a few things, and I did mention several months ago that I wouldn't be talking about COVID unless I had to, but the CDC has made some changes to their guidance. One of the most notable ones is that of any close contacts not being required to isolate or quarantine. And so we were not requiring that. We were recommending that previously. We are no longer going to be recommending that. We also hope that as a result of some of these updated changes by the CDC, it will allow us to be better staffed than we have been in the past. And so we're certainly moving forward with those changes, but we'll communicate that as needed. but it's nothing more than what's already kind of been put out there to the general public as of late. The other item I wanted to mention tonight was today we had the pleasure of welcoming our new staff, our new certified staff to the district. I provided a welcome get-together 8 o'clock this morning for about an hour. It was great to see all those excited, anxious, stressed out faces in front of me. But it's a great group of staff. What I clarified to them is that based on research, quite honestly, that the most important single factor that makes an impact on student learning is the effectiveness of the teacher in front of them. And, so I put that burden on them, but I also let them know that we're here to support them as well, that we've got a lot of great support staff, administration, supportive school board, and we know that we can be successful like we have been in the past, and certainly make improvements in the areas that we seek as well. So it was great to have them back. We will actually have all staff back next week, and then we have our district kickoff next week, Thursday. But, we've got open houses at the elementary schools already happening next week. As you know, our athletics have already started for the fall season. So we've already got students in our hallways already. So this is nothing new for us. I also wanted to touch on an item that will be determined, yet to be determined by the school board that was discussed in closed session. And that is that the administration is recommending to the board, based on feedback that we received in our staff surveys, as well as focus groups, especially during these unprecedented times when we were dealing with the pandemic. We've just done a lot of heavy lifting. We've kept our doors open probably as long as any other school district has in the state of Wisconsin. And with that comes a lot of hard work and dedication. And so our recommendation to the board was to provide a one-time loyalty bonus to staff that were employed with us last year of $1,000. This would be $1,000 to all employees that were here last year. And, again, when you've got these unprecedented times, plus the fact that we actually will have another surplus this year, specifically within our HR budget, which will provide more details to the board as the board looks to approve the audited numbers and the upcoming prospective budget, which again just seems to bring to light that we are really doing well and being good stewards of the dollars that are allocated to us. But because we have these one-time dollars, we believe it would be a great time and opportunity for us to provide that loyalty bonus to our staff. And so that's the recommendation that we've provided to you as a board, and we are recommending approval to you, and so that's to be determined later on in the agenda. That is my report. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we have our district reports, which include the incident report, financial reports, and the donation report. Mr. Seidel, would you please read the donation report?
It would be my pleasure. We have one donation from 823 to Eisenhower High School from the Herb Cole Educational Foundation. Support the 2022 fellow Lisa Vega in the amount of $6,000. Total, the approval date was 7/18/2022. Thank you to our generous donor for the generous donation, and that ends my report.
Thank you, and thank you to our donor. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, which includes the notice and approving of minutes of August 8th. Sorry. Are there any items that should be pulled out for separate consideration? Do I have a motion for the consent agenda?
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Helmer and a second by Mr. Kurth to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? Motion passes. On to our regular agenda. We have several policies to approve or delete. The first one up is discussion and approval of policy 0132.2 for administrative guidelines replacing current policy 8330. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Helmer, a second by Mr. Kurth. Is there any discussion?
I did want to clarify that last meeting, Amy Crosby had asked me whether we needed this policy or not because these administrative guidelines would be noted in our various handbooks that we have. I think I may have misinterpreted what she was asking because a lot of our administrative guidance is located in the handbooks, but this is the mechanism which allows us to administer those administrative guidelines. So we would recommend approval of the policy as presented.
Any other discussion?
I like Amy's thought process of trying to eliminate as many policies as possible. I'll agree with you on this one.
All right, then, all those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? Motion passes. The next one is discussion and approval of policy 0141.1, student representation at board meetings, replacing current policy 9112.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Seidel and a second by Mr. Helmer. Any discussion? Then hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. All those opposed? Motion passes. Then we have discussion and approval of policy 0142.5, vacancies, replacement, current policy 9111. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Helmer, second by Mr. Kurth. Is there any discussion?
I just had one question
Sure.
on this one, Janet, and it's in, it's sort of laid out weird that you have two sections, but they're not numbered, and then you've got A, B, letters beneath it. So I'm referring to the second block of sections where it says filling a board vacancy. And the item I was looking at was paragraph E, and what this language says is, appointment by the board to fill a vacancy shall be by a majority vote of the existing board, period. If the vacancy is not filled within 60 days of the date on which the vacancy first exists, the vacancy shall be filled by appointment of the board president. The thing I think is problematic about that language is that we could have it's possible that you could have like a rogue president who just doesn't put it on the agenda and doesn't give the board the opportunity to vote in a person to fill the vacancy. So what I would propose in order to avoid that in the future is something on the order of that the board has to vote on the vacancy within 30 days of the vacancy existing, or at the outset 60 days. So we're just requiring that the board vote on it to give the whole board the opportunity to be heard. But then, as a fail-safe, like if the board can't reach it, if we're deadlocked or there's not a quorum or whatever, then after that 60 days to allow the president to fill it unilaterally.
So
That's what I propose.
Interesting about this policy, we were in a situation about, just over a year ago, I had to do some research on this. So this is very much governed by actually the state statute. And I believe in I of the upper section there, sort of hits on that, and I believe we are required by state statute to, as a board, do it. So I don't think a president can be rogue without violating the state statute. So I mean, I don't have an issue with clarifying that in that H
Yeah, I just
paragraph.
think
That's fine.
Yeah,
but I mean, a president couldn't be rogue without being in violation of the statute.
I think that's true, but logistically then what would have to happen is somebody would have to refer the matter to the state district, to the state office, and then would have to be pursued. And I just don't see an administrative agency like that pursuing it when they have much bigger fish to fry. Do you know what I'm saying? So I think that it might just be, it just might provide guidance too to further presidents that, look, you got to get this on the agenda and you got to make sure you do that. That's what I would like to see.
This is a Neola policy, right? These are straight from Neola. So thousands of school districts are using these with the same language in place. Okay.
Any other discussion? Any motions to amend?
Oh, sure.
Do you want to make the motion?
Yeah, I can make a motion. All right, now I just got to think about the language here. So I think that what I'd propose is between the first sentence and the second sentence, something on the order of, the board president shall place the matter on the agenda for a vote prior to 60 days, I'm sorry, before 60 days has elapsed once the vacancy is created. That's indelicate. I just did it off the top of my head, so I apologize for that, but that's all I'm coming up with right this second.
The board president shall place the item on the agenda before 60 days elapse from
The date on which the vacancy first exists.
on which vacancy first exists.
Yeah. Period. And then the
And then-
the
okay.
next sentence.
So it's
That's,
basically adding that one.
yeah, just adding that the board president has to put on the agenda. That'd be my preference. And honestly, I don't think it's necessarily like, I just think the stuff can get missed. As a board president, you have a lot of duties, you know? And if we don't write down some of this stuff, you could forget something because you're juggling so many other balls.
Okay, do we need a second for that amendment? Or do we need the motion, the person who made the motion to agree? Amend something previously adopted. Yes, it needs a second, you're right, yeah. Okay, do I have a second for this amendment?
I'll second.
All right, any other discussion? And all those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? So, motion passes. Oh, we have a discussion and approval of policy 0167.1, voting, replacing current policy 8215. Do I have a motion?
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Kurth and a second by Mr. Helmer. Any discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? Motion passes. Now we have a discussion and approval of policy 9130, public requests, suggestions, or complaints, replacing current policy 1312. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Helmer and a second by Mr. Kurth. Any discussion? Oh, I just want to note that during the first read, there were some policies that were referenced within it that I noticed we don't have. So what's here now, Diana and Ann went back and they looked at the policies that we do have. So they made sure that the correct policies are being referenced within there. Any discussion after that? Then all those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? Motion passes. Discussion, approved deletion of School District New Berlin Policy 1314, solicitations.
So move.
I have a motion by Mr. Seidel and a second by Mr. Kurth. Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. All those opposed? Motion passes. Discussion and approval, discussion approved deletion of School District of New Berlin Policy 9270, duties of individual members.
So move.
I have a motion by Mr. Seidel,
Second.
second by Mr. Helmer. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? Motion passes. Then we have a couple of action items that were discussed in closed session. We have our first one that relates to the Employment Services Report. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the employment service report as presented.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Kurth and a second by Mr. Helmer to approve. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. All those opposed? Motion passes. Then we have our second one that is in reference to the employee compensation discussion.
I move to approve the employee compensation as presented.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Kurth, a second by Mr. Helmer. Just want to remind everybody, this is in reference to what Mr. Garza was discussing in his update. So for all those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? Motion passes. Then we have our future meetings and dates. Board meetings are generally held the second and fourth Mondays, beginning at 7 o'clock p.m. in the Eisenhower Commons, unless noted otherwise. For the next one is Monday, September 12th at 7 o'clock p.m. Then we also have one on Monday, September 26th, which also includes the annual meeting and budget hearing. And then Wednesday, October 12th. Another important date is that the first day of school is coming up, Tuesday, September 6th. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Helmer, a second by Mr. Seidel. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes. This meeting is adjourned.